Man, oh man, we got things going on in the backstage. It's time to get live. All right. All right. We are back for another open court discussion in the Counselor's Corner. I am your host, David Lorenzo Glover, aka the Controversial Counselor. Joining me is my co-host, the Big Bad Wolf, Herb Lewis.
Ow.
And we also have here the insightful, lovely Jackie Brown.
Blessed evening.
If the panel interests you, all you need to do is hit up me or her for details. Recap from this past Monday's broadcast. We covered how concerned are women when it comes to dating. I'm not going to go into details about the broadcast, but if you're interested, go check out the replay on YouTube at the Controversial Counselors channel. Okay, let's move on to tonight's subject. We will discuss the post from Facebook. The title of the broadcast will be A Woman's Admission. Here is the actual post. My husband found me in bed with another man in our in our bedroom. I expected him to shoot both of us right there, but he didn't. He nicely asked my side guy to get dressed and leave. I was shaking to the toe now. He told me to go take a shower. I tried to apologize, but he told me that he didn't want to talk about it because there was nothing he could do to reverse what happened. Mm, mm, mm. That was the last time we spoke about it. Ever since that day, he has been nice to me. He buys me flowers and takes me out at least twice a week. Just last week, he took me shopping and spent like 4,400. Damn fool. He's busy organizing a vacation for us overseas before Christmas. My husband is doing everything I wanted this from my man. Here's my problem. What I saw last month is eating me up every day, especially since he doesn't want to talk about it. I'm even losing weight. I expected him to chase me away, punish me, or call the family meeting to report me. He's doing the opposite. I feel like he's planning to do something bad to me. Sometimes I open my eyes at night and find him looking at me. When I ask, he says he's admiring my beauty and thanking God for blessings. All right. So we're going to look at four potential areas of discussion. One, number one is why do women cheat? Two is how does being cheated on impact men? Three, can your relationship become stronger after cheating? And four, how does cheating impact women? So, gang, please like and share this video, and don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Controversial Counselor. Be sitting at about 611 subs, so keep subscribing, share with a friend, tell a friend about the broadcast. Let's keep growing. I'm trying to push to 650, trying to have short goals to, because little things lead to big things, and then hit 650, then hopefully hit 700 soon. So here we have it. A lot going on here, a lot to break down, a lot of discussion to be had about these subject matters. But before we get started, Jackie, what's new with you? What's good? What's
All is
bad?
well.
What's indifferent?
All is well, just day by day. My grandmother's coming along. We're just struggling with the people to do their jobs at the hospital, but the fight is real and the fight is on. So,
All right. Herb, what about yourself?
Man, I started typing up the outline to the book, man. It's kind of funny, man, how you start doing something like this, and in the midst of it, you start to do rewrites and things of that nature. But I'm really kind of liking how all this is coming together, even though the finished product really is probably months away. But I'm having fun, really do.
Well, yeah, you're gonna have fun with it, and like I said before, you have to look at it as the birth of your child. I always look at it as I looked at it as when I did my first project, like trimesters. So I wanted to be set a timetable, wanted to be done, and wanted to update. The people that followed me, and they got a good response because I kind of amped them up. they got excited with me for the book to come out. And you remember that, Herb? That was a long time ago, 2014. Damn.
Yeah.
So and that's what you got to do. Just keep people posted, keep them going, and keep throwing out, talking points and little things, little jabs about the what's coming, and get them engaged in it. So that's that. But far as me, what's good, what's bad, what's indifferent, what's bad, kids. But nah, some of them are. But hey, that's pretty much it. Like I keep saying, this is the busy time of the year, so everybody is just. Some people are already checked out. We got like a month until spring break with really no days off. It don't look like no snow is trying to hit Maryland. So I think we got maybe 2 half days. So people are struggling, just struggling, trying to get through. Luckily, as a counselor, we deal with a lot of issues, but we don't have to deal with them all day, every day. We have our steady flow of people coming, but once we're done with them, we need to go back to class. I just tend to have people that just want to congregate in my area. As I made several posts that I evicted some students from my office, and sure enough, they were back the next day. So then I said, well, let me tape off my area that they can't come behind, because they like to come behind my desk. They like to be all up in my personal. They like to touch stuff, and I just like the students say, Mr. Glover, can I come take a break in here? Get, they look at their phone, put on their earbuds, and they just chill. They don't bother me. We might have some discussion here and there, but I'm doing my thing. They're doing their thing, and then afterwards they go back to class. But I got some rowdy eighth graders. They want to, talk me to death. They like, again, they want to be touching everything. It's just, and my coworkers always say, "How do you deal with that shit? How do you deal with that?" And I've been dealing with it for a long time, so I can handle it. But that's me.
And when you talk about these situations, I wonder if the way schools are assembled, do they actually just need to change? I mean, there's always chatter about all gender classes, meaning that, or all gender schools actually meaning that you get boys in one school and girls in the other. We know about Dr. Umar and what is the Tim Sar with his Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey's Academy. And it begs the question, could more be accomplished if those type of settings were introduced on a larger scale?
We experiment with that with we have the Black Boy Joy group, 7th and 8th graders, and we tried to experiment with that, and some of them made improvement, but others, they still clowning around, still even without girls in the class. They, you know instead of them forming a bond and like, okay, this is a brotherhood, especially the eighth graders. We've been together for like 2 years, the same crew. We've taken classes together. We went on field trips. They still at the point of still bullying people. I don't want to say use that word bully, because I think that's over. It's been overhyped, but still picking on finding the weak ones, picking on them, and taking advantage of them when it's an opportunity. Like, hey, I got to know him a little bit. Let me take him under my wing. I appear to be a little stronger, and let me get his back. Nah, they don't see it like that. It's just nonstop, nonstop. So, and they don't see that connection or that bond that we've been trying to tell them. Like, y'all need to bond together. Y'all like a family, and they don't see it like that. But then again, they don't see black teachers, black counselors, older, someone as a role model to them. They got so much self-hatred and disdain that they don't care what color you are. They're not going to connect with you if they don't like you. And it could be some small things, and I'm like, are y'all serious? Y'all don't like them because of that? And we got some serious concerns moving forward in the future. some serious concerns. But that is that. It's time to tackle this subject matter where I'm not going to read it over again for people just joining. Y'all just have to fill in the blanks about that post, a woman's admission and being caught in the bed with another man by your husband. So the first thing is, why do women cheat? Putting it out there.
Well,
I'm not a cheater, so I do not know why to address that one. But all I'm saying is it's either greed, they don't have enough, they're being neglected, or they're just really just want to keep on tapping their toes into different ponds because of whatever reason. Mm, mm.
this can be, it can be as simple as looking at the reasons for the dissolution of marriage. And the top two reasons are finances and fidelity. Now, conventional language is saying that women generally cheat, excluding those two reasons, when they've gotten to a point in the situation where they're not happy. And who knows what that could be, in terms of what they're communicating to their partner, what their partner may not be understanding, what their partner may not be aware of. The differences between what men do is, for men, is just a physical act, and for women, it's just, okay, I'm not having certain aspects of my needs and wants met, so I'm going to go somewhere else. They usually say when a woman does that, the relationship is pretty much over. So that's that last straw before she starts being unfaithful. That's why I think when we read the scenario, that the man is starting to do all the things that she wanted him to do prior to her being unfaithful. Now, some people might say, they might play devil's advocate and say, well, was he being unfaithful? We don't know. The scenario never gave that information. So we have to go with the information that's just presented. So,
and speaking on that, before you go into it, listen, people, when I put a scenario out there, I'm just giving you a snapshot. I get sick and damn tired of people like, not enough information, too vague. Haven't you learned from school to draw conclusions, to infer what you think may happen? Haven't we been learning that since elementary, where your teachers set up a story and you have to write about what do you think's going to happen at the end, or when you're having small group reading discussions and they say, what do you think's going to happen next? Some grown ass people like, it's too vague. When you look at the news and you're running your mouth and they only give you a quick snapshot of something they're reporting, you got a lot to say about that, but you don't know all the details. People had a lot to say about Ja Morant with the gun and all that stuff, but it was only a small, you only seen a picture and you don't have all the details or whatever the case is. Same thing with a scenario. You're not going to get all the details. You're only going to get a small snapshot, and then you just roll with it, and for discussion purposes. All right, go ahead, Herb. I just wanted to get that off my chest.
No, because as soon as you said, I was like, I know where this is going. Yeah, so when a woman reaches that point, it's pretty much a done deal. Like I said, I know some people were trying to say, maybe it's the guy doing this and it's the guy doing that and all these other things. That could very well be true. But the thing about it is this: you got to mute yourself, Red Cloud. You gotta mute your face. You gotta mute your YouTube feed.
I sort of heard before I was like signing in onto the video a little bit of like why women cheat. I remember a long time ago when I was I would say my teens, right? And I already had a girlfriend at the age of 7, my first childhood sweetheart, she was my girlfriend until the age of like 14, and their family moved out. So I moved on. And I remember the first time I dated a girl in high school, and she cheated on me, right? And I was devastated, and I didn't understand why. And then I started studying because I was a pretty astute reader, and I was always in the library. I started studying about psychology and animal behavior, specifically like human behavior, and realizes that it's territory, right? We're talking about primal instincts here, not necessarily anything addictive or anything like that. It's just territory. They do it deliberately, play games. So, but the reason why could be both a mixture of because they had a broken childhood to that's just territorial. It's one of those two. So I remember, like I commented before, that I dated a stripper. And this is a true story. I was like close to leaving high school, and I was of age, and I went to the strip club, Joyce, because it was actually ambience. I enjoyed the ambience of it, and I was actually drawing. I didn't do anything with any of those girls, and one approached me, and turns out that she needed help because she was trying to get in the country, and she wasn't interested in marrying me. She just needed help, like with her English. I said, sure, I don't care. And, and yes, we got romantically involved. Not once did she cheat on me. And this is a stripper. So you have to wonder as to where it generates from. And a lot of those things that I've noticed recently is that it all points to Western society in general. It's stripped of any cultural sense of morality. In addition to that, of respecting oneself and roles. And the thing is that when I hear like degradation of prostitution, stuff like that, prostitution is one of the oldest careers in history, right? It's one of the oldest professions, that and politicians. So you have to think about it. It's like logically, where does this all stem from? Well, I have to look at from my culture, because being Apache, and by the way, I'm also of African descent because on my mom's side, she was from Egypt, right? So that's North African. So specifically as far as contextually, there's a lot of things that can put on the table for the group. But from reading from my culture, they were not monogamous per se. The structure of Apache life, right, as it was annotated, they sometimes have 2 husbands and 2 wives, and they were all helping each other. It was communal. And if you think about it, and in terms of survival, because the chances of survival out in the desert was very slim. Mm-hmm. So they all pitched in together. They didn't care if you're going to have sex with this wife. Okay, fine. Because their mentality was absent of territory to the extent that family is actually and community is actually more important. So you throw those primal concepts you throw out the window. And I had to observe of myself because I always had problems with relationships, and because of I couldn't trust the lady per se, and I was traditionally a guy that I didn't cheat around. After I got out of the Air Force, I decided, that I was going to just be who I was, and whoever enters my life, I'm not going to, shun them away. And I had 3 or 4 girlfriends, and this is the thing: all of them knew I was dating the other. They didn't have a problem with it, and they all understood that when I spend time with someone, it's with them. And when but the one that locked the door, and it's funny enough, she was one of my girlfriends, was my wife. And I see that a lot of because when they say, oh, you cheated on me, you're like, where is it written? Where is there a law? There isn't one. All of this, this concept of cheating and stuff like that, it's society drilling in your head what you think it is when it actually isn't. So I'm going to stop here because I want to hear from other people. of what you think about that. So that way we can create a discussion at this, because I really enjoy hearing other people's input.
Before we do move on, first of all, I want to thank you for actually taking the opportunity to actually come to this platform and to the group.
Sorry, thank you. Yeah, I kind of I was cooking and go, oh my God, I got a meeting. So it's like, yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
And
thanks
also,
for joining, Thomas.
You got what else do you have planned besides your live feed? Because we're getting feedback.
My name is Thomas. My name is Thomas Red Cloud. My name in Apache is Itzapata Yaposicho, which is Eagle Eye Red Cloud. Red Cloud is my family name, belongs to my grandfather, and I would be considered like third or fourth generation Apache. On my mom's side, it's Jewish and Scottish. And the Jewish part, well, because my Scottish grandfather, he was a nobleman, and he was half Jewish. He was married to the Fisher family, where my grandmother, she was from Iskandaria Masaria, which means Alexandria, Egypt. So she was from the motherland, and beautiful, dark skin, and she was gorgeous. And my Scottish grandfather, funny enough, he had the most curliest hair, close to a fro. He had dreadlocks of hair. And and my hair is actually not that straight. It actually gets curly. So, and I actually have pictures in my Facebook account. You guys, if it's exposed to you, I can show you that when I was a toddler, I had curly hair, like really curly hair. So growing up for me was interesting, is because being interracial, being biracial or whatever it is. Yes, I did experience a lot of the racism, a lot of the spit, but also a viewpoint of accepting others because I wasn't accepted by anyone. Staunch difference than what you would expect from someone that gets spit on. Instead, I was really accommodating, and I had friends from everywhere from Africa to Greek, from Greece, from Italy, Spain, everywhere, Ecuador, you name it. And so I never shut the door on anybody, and that has followed me. And as far as being raised, it was tumultuous, is because my Apache grandparents wanted to raise me Apache, and they saw my parents. Well, they were, both of my parents, they were not really fit to be parents at all. And so there was a struggle between Western values. And I didn't realize it until later. There was a struggle between Western values and the traditional values that both my European grandparents agreed upon with my Apache grandparents. They both agreed upon it, that when I was born, that I would be brought up traditionally. And I could go into the specific, it's not important, but when my parents disrespected that, and they said, no, we're not going to do that. We want him to be like completely like a melting pot, no concept whatsoever of being Apache or whatever. He's just a mutt. The assimilation is disturbing. And given that at a very early age, by the time I was about 5 years old, 5 to 6, 5.5, 6 years old, I was identified to read and write at a college level. So early on, I read books about my people because it was a hint and a whisper that we were Apache. But they say, oh, no, we're white or we're Latino. It's always different answer every single time. It was never a straight answer. And it was after I talked to a cousin that wanted to stay on the Apache side, and oddly enough, they were shunned because they decided to keep the skin, right? That grandma and grandpa, whatever the collusion they had, it's like whatever convoluted idea they had in their head, they wanted to bleach us out so that way they were less Apache. The story gets better, but just keep that in mind, that they wanted to bleach us out, that way there's no difference. They can't tell the difference between us and regular white people. That was the thing.
Wow.
And And then on contrast, whenever I stayed with my Scottish grandfather and my Egyptian grandmother, right? And this is in Europe. I used to fly to Europe like when I got older, like once or twice a year, and go visit them because I loved them. And I knew that it was, so that way my mom and my father can do whatever the hell they wanted. They're just, like cannonballs. So I remember my Scottish grandfather teaching me mathematics and teaching me poker and blackjack, and then saying that when people address you, you have to understand that they call you master because you are a master. And I said, why? Because you're a nobleman. I was like, what? And I didn't understand it back then. And then he showed me albums because my family lineage on my Scottish side of the family is part of the Dougal Gardner clan, which is related to the Duke of Montrose. So I might look mostly Apache or Polynesia, whatever it is you perceive me, but I'm actually rated to some guy that's the Duke of Montrose. And so I was like, okay, so I'm a nobleman? He goes, yes. And you have to act like a nobleman and treat people with respect. This is a nobleman. And then keep in mind, this nobleman married an Egyptian woman outside of nobility. So he was shunned. But he chose, was it an African woman? And I remember distinctively, and this is where it comes to a head, is because I remember distinctively, like I would say 7 or 8 years old, my aunt decided to marry a man, and he was so cool to be with. He was like an older brother to me. And we went to the wedding. His family, without his knowledge, was telling me I could not enter the cathedral because I was too dark-skinned. My grandfather was so furious. He said, if this does not stop now, I'm pulling the plug because I paid for all of this wedding. My son is either in the wedding or you get out. And so, and then casually, right, as getting introduced to, because there's people out there that think that some people don't believe that racism exists. It does, but it's not what people perceive it to be, is because it's a form of dominance, which is very territorial. And if anything, it's a primordial instinct that we still have yet to master. Because, all in all, truth be known, that the last time I checked, my sperm can probably give birth to any woman anywhere in the globe. So that should tell me that I'm a human being and everyone else is. But to this day, we still cannot get past that. So I remember, and there is a gentleman that is in the crowd, and his name is Mr. St. Clair, Gavin St. Clair. I knew this man since I think 2009. He'll probably correct me on that. And I was working for a Japanese company, right? That itself was a doozy, because here I am, a Native American, working for a Japanese company. So I was an enigma. I was more like a novelty item, simply because of the fact I was Apache. Like, they thought it was something that only existed in the movies. And here I am in the flesh. And I'm a software engineer. That doesn't make sense to anybody.
Yeah.
So I remember talking to this man every single day and lifting him up and saying, don't let anyone tell you because of the color of your skin that you cannot succeed. Because you can do anything you want to if you choose to. Hell bent or die trying. If you want it, you just ignore that and just get what you want. But you have to be confident.
Let me say this. And Herb was asking you, do you got two devices open? Because it's an echo.
Oh, it's an echo? Hold on 1 second. Hey, guys.
Yeah?
Can you call for a second? I'm trying to do this.
No.
No.
You have your live feed playing, and we think you.
Yeah,
have
I know.
your
I'm looking
feed
for it right now. Hold on.
Okay.
And we definitely appreciate the knowledge and the background because
Oh, cut
okay,
himself off.
stepped away. All right. So and again for the audience who was listening to that, we appreciate getting perspectives and history from other individuals because oftentimes we just think it's us as blacks that struggle. But when really in reality is everybody has their form of struggles and identity issues and things like that. So we're gonna pick back up on the subject of why women
Well,
cheat.
actually, what people have to keep in mind, the concept of marriage, and what Thomas is talking about is the Native American culture of marriage. See, we have to keep in mind that European or Anglo-Saxon views permeates much of Western culture. His culture is extremely different, where they don't believe in land ownership, they don't believe in marriage in the traditional sense. So he's actually speaking in terms of what ancient Africans would consider the village concept, where the village claims paternity for that child, and the village raises that child collectively. So when he was talking about his maternal parents not wanting to raise him in traditional fashion, that's what they were talking about. I know for some people, this makes no sense at all. I understand it because I've been immersed in Native American culture for quite some time. So for me, it's not different. I had the privilege and the ability to work at a Native American casino where they gave us a course in this. So this becomes another conduit for us to get introduced into other cultures and understanding why marriage is like it is in the Western culture and it isn't in some other cultures. So what he's saying in terms of infidelity didn't exist in his culture. So that's why somebody asks a question: if marriage doesn't define lines of monogamy, why get married? Marriage was a different concept for his group of people compared to what ours is. Now, if we go back to Africa, we didn't have marriage in the traditional sense of marriage. That was thrust upon our ancestors when they were brought here.
So when you think about it, again, people, throughout the word melting pot, a lot of times in this day and age, you got different cultures getting with each other, but do they truly understand what they're getting into? When people have different backgrounds, different beliefs, but you're just getting involved with them on probably initial, low level surface interest.
I remember because this ties in with both the cheating and also, or I would say fidelity or non-fidelity, or concept of relationships, if we were going to classify it, right? And I remember something that I read a long time ago having to do with, okay, shoot, I forgot now. Well, I'll come back to the point. Just continue talking. I'll probably remember it again. I'm sorry. It's my first time that I'm actually on stage with people. Actually, it's kind of interesting because I actually do meetings every single day for my work, and here I am in a crowd. It's like in a public forum, and I'm almost start like So sorry if I'm a little jittery.
That's okay. Yeah, we just really trying to kind of keep it focused and narrowed on why women do it. Though. That's what we want to. We're really trying to focus on.
Okay, so if women do it, right, you have to think back, and I'm making this point clear for a reason, is because Western society does not educate at all about humanity as an animal, and understanding that we are an animal society just like all the other animal societies. Where in contrast, in Native culture, it's implicit. And I'll explain to you the reason why. And I'm sure that our female guests here could probably agree on this. When you have a group of women that work in an office, eventually over time, they synchronize. So that way they ovulate at the same time. Why? Competition.
I don't know nothing about that one.
Okay, that's actually true. They note this happens with several mammalian species, the same observed pattern. So
Uh,
you feel free to reach it out, research it. It's public knowledge. I'm hoping that it's like it's not been it's like whitewashed by now, but that's something that I learned very early on in my education about physiology, about human biology. That we as animals are within the domain of pheromones, right? Chemicals, and we're very territorial. We're very aggressive, very territorial animals, and this is why human behaviorists look at chimpanzees and other simians to formulate how it relates to how humanity is. But you can actually see the same pattern in a lot of animal species. And so I'm suggesting, right, that unconsciously that women do it is because it guarantees success. Because what is the ultimate goal of a woman? To procreate and create the next generation. So, but unfortunately, because the society kind of filters that out, when you're presented with that, you react. And the knee-jerk reaction with most guys is that for some odd reason, they act territorial. They want to go, it's like jungle gym the entire place and kill somebody. I can understand that. There was a couple of times where I wanted to deck a guy because it's like I couldn't understand it. But when I sat myself down and I realized, oh, duh, it's because they're uneducated about their about their animal senses. So they have no control over it. When you're not taught about your senses, right? Like any animal culture, and I say that like pumas, wolves, or anything like that, they instruct their young as far as, see, use your nose. Your nose will tell you where to go. Does this culture teach you that? No. They don't teach you how to defend yourself. They don't teach you how to observe people to trust realistically and people not to trust. And that everyone has got an agenda and everyone lies. That is a truth. Now, something I learned in Apache culture, right, is that, and it's something that might be foreign learned to people, but this is something that is actually part of Apache culture. You are my enemy until you prove that you are my friend. That is an actual dictum from my culture. And for obvious reasons, you have two tribes. There's no like actual written down agreement. It's just by pact. And any time someone might just say, F it, we're just going to go ahead and raid them. So proving that you are a friend, you are my enemy first. It's not that we hate anybody, right? It's a defense saying, we stand here, prove to me that you are a friend and that your words are of life, not of death. This society is based upon a facade of being, nice. I've heard it so many times, oh, you got to be nice. No, I'd rather be authentic, tell the truth. But you see, Western society caters to lying to yourself. And this is the reason why that I label it. It's been labeled several times, not just by myself, but by prior authors. I remember reading this, the psychopathic society, and it is.
Well, Thomas, let me ask you a question. Regarding that. Then,
Sure.
The echo. Hold on, I gotta. Unless you lower the volume on.
I can try to lower the volume on my
because when we talk, it's an echo.
Is an echo?
I
know the reason.
You have two streams.
I got it. Hold on. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, it's not when you speak, it's when we speak. Now we don't hear it. So whatever you did, it was perfect.
Yeah, I had to turn down the volume a little bit.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question regarding that, see if I can redirect you back to the general topic. You said that
Sure.
Western culture allows us to lie to ourselves about certain things. Do you think men, more specifically, lie to themselves about how their mate is, and when they do that and she does end up stepping out, that catches them by surprise because they've been misleading themselves.
People marry the fantasy, they're not married to reality. And that's the reason why the 90% of marriages fail. They lie to each other, both men and women equal. They make when you're bombarded with media of how you should be, that's also a facade. It's a lie. All of it is. These are not values. And it becomes culture. And that's the thing that's disturbing. It's like you're replacing culture with iconization of commercialization. It's essentially what it is, right? It's all advertisement. You're basically a consumer. It's the culture, consumer culturalism, and it's there's a positive side to it, but it's mostly negative. And if you look at historically through the generations, more and more, it's becoming systemic to societies because when you have actual no guarding of social structure, i.e., in terms of culture, and you choose to go for the melting pot. I'm not saying that assimilating is bad per se, because that's why I'm here. But it should be an embrace of both cultures, not the annihilation of them, right?
Well,
So,
like I was saying,
as far as men is concerned, they tend to fixate on settling and not observing themselves as what they should be as a man and the kind of person they really need to be with as a woman that balances them. It's not a matter of desire, it's a matter of necessity.
so it goes back to, it was something I posted, I think, this morning, whatever, about needs, necessities. Um, and sometimes in that position, people look at, if you need something, then it's a sign of weakness. But I don't view that word as a sign of weakness. I look at it as somebody making up kind of fulfilling. I gotta mute. I can't take that echo. Hold on. I don't know. So I don't look at it as, if somebody needs you, as a sign of weakness. I think you're just filling in the empty spaces that make you successful. Not all of us are equipped with all the skills to do what we need to do. So sometimes you need people for this, and my mind kind of always shifts to sports. When you think about free agents and stuff like that, you're filling in missing parts. We need shooters. We need somebody who can play defense. And as a man, he might say, "I'm not good with budgeting money, so I'm really trying to find someone who kind of got them good executive function skills that could help me get to the top." And I think women do the same thing. So I think people get caught up in the semantics of words, like, I don't need nobody. If somebody needs me, that means they're weak and whatever. Yeah, that just grow up.
That is definitely a warped way of looking at things from a woman's perspective. Not you, but I'm saying the woman, if that's how they're looking at it. It's just very defeating to actually realize that a lot of these women are dressing
So
things that way.
Hold on, Thomas. Go ahead.
I would say that
Oh,
Hold on,
okay.
Thomas. Hold
it's
on.
a balance. It has to be
Hold
a
on,
balance.
Thomas. Hold on, Thomas. Go ahead,
A
Jack.
You
man
guys have a blessed night.
should have
You guys have a blessed night.
empathy because he's only human, and vice versa, right? But it has to be balanced with discipline and logic, because we've seen out there, when you have now a generation where people are out of control, and this young generation is out of control, and they're so sensitive on topics that nothing can be discussed. without going to a level 10. And if society was like it was back, like, and I'm not saying it's perfect, I'm saying that in certain aspects, if we reel back like 30, 40 years, where you had families hunting, you had families cooking together, men and women, right? Families bonding. And you see the staunch difference even by 20 years, 10 years. It's systemic as far as the mentality. And the thing that I think that most, because you go to, because there's two, this is double-edged sword, because when it comes to women that cheat or men that cheat, for instance, because it's for the same reason, even though they lie to themselves and say, oh, it's for something else, they don't understand that it's territorial. They're working off their biological animal. The other side of the sword is the psychosis side, right? When you're with someone that is manipulative, you tend to attract those type of people because you're insecure about yourself, so much to the point you allow yourself exceptions as to who you decide to smash. We're going to say that. We're going to say it. So, and I've made that mistake. I can say this. And I had to look deep inside myself, like, why am I attracted to this? Is because myself, I'm experiencing a type of psychosis. And I haven't identified with that. And the minute I did, it's amazing. The result is because the people that were first talking to me wanted nothing to do with me because I wasn't toxic anymore.
So
I'm going to stop there.
All right.
Let me say this, because and you're definitely hitting on some great points that we kind of discuss and talk about all the time. But when we have this, when we have our platform, we try to keep it moving. We have talking points. We try to keep it moving, and one of the things is the people that's watching, they kind of lose interest if it's not a great epic flow. So again, you're touching on some valuable points that I'm thinking, like, man, a lot of it does make sense when you think about us getting together and not understanding the culture, and just people settle in and not understanding. But one of the things we try to have outline, and one of the things is we want to focus on why women cheat, and just throw out some short talking points, and hopefully that the women will respond in the chat. We just lost Jackie. She dropped down, and so we want to keep it moving.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong. The way you're viewing it is through an esoteric lens, and that's not a bad thing. Just a lot of people will never ever be able to grasp that because they're not as well studied as you. So when we discuss these type of things, we want to be able to keep the layman in there because they're gonna get lost. And they're going, what the heck? Just like Swanda's asking, what's the topic? I'm having some difficulty following. It's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just where we are in terms of the listening audience. So we want them to be able to participate as well. But to what he was saying, men become territorial. And for women, he mentioned something earlier that a lot of people might really be unaware of. And that is true. When a group of women get together, their cycles do sync up. And for and we've had this discussion before, why do women dress the way they do? For the same reason that male peacocks have the plumage that they do. They're fighting among themselves for the best mate that they can attract. So when women step outside of what is considered to be a Western dynamic in terms of monogamy, they're doing it for a whole different reason. They're doing it because they're not happy. Now, it might be something internal, because I remember being in a relationship, and before I started, before I committed to the female, she told me, I'm self-destructive. I intentionally sabotage relationships. And I still dealt with this individual knowing that. So when she did step out on me, it wasn't a surprise. Was I disappointed? Yes. But the rationale was already there because she had suffered some trauma earlier in her childhood that predisposed her to do that. That's something else we don't cover, and that's something else that Thomas mentioned, is that some people coming from broken homes, until they get some type of therapy, they're always going to follow that path of self-destruction. So you may have a female that is 100% on your side, but she's still doing those kind of things because she hasn't healed herself. So no matter what you do, we see this with a lot of men who say they're good men. I've given my wife everything. I take her shopping, I buy her flowers, yet and still she's running around with this hoodlum. And go ahead, Dave.
And that's one of the things that was brought up when I, looked, did my research, talking points like that past trauma that causes women to cheat, whether it's a cycle of abuse and they've been sexually abused and they think, okay, this is what I need to do to feel whole because someone abused me. So they use sex as a part of that kind of escapism. And then when you even mention, like, as far as with, I lost my train of thought. As far as men, go ahead. I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, no, I know most of us have probably seen the movie. I was gonna say Happy Gilmore. It's not Happy Gilmore. It's Tom Hanks with the just drew a complete blank. With him and Jenny when he played Forrest Gump. We saw Forrest Gump. He was married to Jenny. He was what we would term in the manosphere, the black manosphere, as a simp. He went out and married himself a woman who was not whole. And when she strayed, it wasn't anything to do with him. That was who she was. As the old adage says, water sinks to its own level. So she went back to doing what she's always done, regardless of him, because that's what she felt comfortable at. They always tell men, never take a woman out of her comfort zone. We always hear the adage, or you can't turn a hoe into a housewife. And that's always debated from here, from there. Some people say you can, some people say you can't. That's one of the dangers that men run into when they do that. You're taking a woman out of her element and you're trying to make her something different.
I remember when I watched Forrest Gump, when I saw that he was going with Jenny, I said, of course, it's obvious. She's basically terminally a slut. And what was his mom? A hooker. If you remember the role that Sally Field played, the mother, she banged the school administrator so that way she could get her child into a school with grades, if I remember that scene correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a genesis to this. He wasn't a simp because he chose to be.
Mm-hmm.
He was a simp because he was exposed to it. Right? And I could see some similarities because, I'm willing to bet my mom did some shit too. But the way that I acted was, instead, I never really got myself involved with too many women. It's like, yeah, sure. But because I was a late bloomer, I was getting a lot of girls. But for the most part, because you said you were self-destructive, me, I distanced myself. It wasn't because I was going with some other woman, and they thought that was the case, right? And it wasn't. It's because I was so self-aware of my self-destructiveness and all the anger and rage that I wasn't fully like consciously of why. I was going to find out later, right? Because it did stem from the abuse, but I wasn't too sure why exactly. And to prevent myself of doing the same thing that my parents did to each other violently, I decided to just keep everyone away from me. So, as far as what you were talking about, the example of women cheating, right? Because they're unhappy. When they do that kind of behavior and they do it backstabbing, right? It's a deliberate attempt of deception. Why? Because they want to get caught. They want confrontation because the male doesn't think, they think in the back of their mind, the male, doesn't think I deserve their attention. So they do something destructive to get their attention. I know this as an actual behaviors because my animals do it. If they do it, it's a sure hell bet that we do it.
So
we self-destruct deliberately to get attention.
Okay, so you believe it's a cry for attention. Now, where do you think that probably stems from?
Because they were abused as a child, and they will never get it straight in their head because they're damaged goods by that point. And because they refuse to admit it to themselves that they are toxic. So they continue this so-called cycle of psychosis of continually lying to themselves and lying to other people. Right?
And do you think men that deal with these type of women think they can fix them?
Exactly. I can say that because that's exactly how I was. And because it's not just because of the abuse, because there was a lot of abuse and I was always starving for love. And remember what I said about, because I had friends from all over, and my friends will tell you, right? I was very loving and very compassionate, but for me, it was a struggle growing up because I was extremely alone here. No one could understand me here. Finding someone that actually can understand what I'm thinking, how I feel, that's damn near close to impossible. Even my kids will tell you that. So out of a need of desire of, I'm close to tears because it hurts of being able to speak my soul and for someone to echo back. That is the toughest thing for a guy to fucking swallow. Because especially after serving, it's definitely because no one can fucking understand me.
And let me chime in right quick. And I think that's the issue. Like when men,
sorry,
I'm like, it's all good. It's all good, man. Let it out.
You're okay, man. You're okay.
Let it out. Let me just mute you. And I think that's one of the things, because when a man goes through that cycle of being cheated on, he really doesn't have nobody to talk to. You can't talk to your boys about that. If you got 3 or 4 close homeboys, maybe one would be able to understand and won't judge you or won't clown you. But the other ones, they ain't gonna talk shit. So you keep all this stuff inside. You harbor all these feelings. Then that, if you decide to deal with this chick or whatever, and you let her go, then you go into your next relationship. Now you don't really trust, and you got the mindset of, I'm gonna get her before she get me.
Yes.
And this is what we're dealing with, and of course, children are still being produced, and they're coming out not trusting or not saying anything because, damn, my mom and dad live together. They don't trust each other. Shit, they barely like each other. So when I go out into the community. This is my mindset. BGS said it before, and we said it before. We fucked. We're screwed. And there's nothing, I don't know if there's anything that could dig us out of this right now, of what we're experiencing. I really don't. Many people say, oh, you just got to pray and all that. Man, go ahead with all that, man, for real. Go ahead with all that. Go ahead with you got to bring religion back into school. These kids will, they wish, even at our school, they start doing the Pledge of Allegiance again and telling kids to stand. And I'm like, what is going on? Do they not understand what is happening? You can't go back.
No, they don't.
You can't go back to that, because these kids are with the Colin Kaepernicks and all of that stuff. So they not about to feed into all of that. So
yeah, I remember when my parents were going through the divorce, right? My dad announces, son, I've become a born again Christian. I'm like, okay, so you read the pamphlet, I guess, right? And keep in mind, at the time, I was going to a Catholic school, and I'm not, I don't believe in Christianity, and I was forced, it was pretty much forced down my throat. And I was just saying, so what have you changed is because you're still drinking, you're still taking drugs, and you're screwing women that you don't care about, right?
And that's a big part of the destructive tendencies that people can leave behind them because they're never addressed. So, like I was saying prior, when we talking about Forrest Gump, if you get a woman who has been done, it's the old adage of once a good girl has gone bad, she's gone forever. So once you damage somebody who was only up and up, they don't see anything else. They're not going to react to a good person in the same way as, like David was saying, I'm going to get you, or I'm sorry, Red Cloud was saying, I'm going to get you before you get me. So even though a woman may come into a man who's righteous, and when I say righteous, I'm not speaking of the biblical sense of righteousness. I'm speaking righteousness in terms of mankind's understanding of righteousness, a man that does right by his society and by his people. She's going to say, too bad, so sad, so sorry. I'm going to get mine. And if that means that I'm going to go out and deal with the man who's running around here like Dexter St. Jock, hitting everything that ain't nailed down, and I got to bring his kid home to you, and you going to raise him, so what? I can do that because I have the ability to do that. And we don't understand that that's another underlying level of why women cheat. It's simply because they can. There's nothing that stops a woman from being unfaithful except herself. Maybe under the threat of death, but that's about it. So happiness becomes a subset of why she can cheat.
Well, you bring an interesting point, right? Is because it's a choice. You're absolutely right. If you're consciously aware that it's a choice, remember I told you that, or that spoke in this, and there's the group here, that part of this is biological. It's not sociological. It's not a behavior of society. It's actually biological in terms of behavior. It's an instinct. It's part of success. It's like a lot of them are wired that way, that they go ahead and flip over a few guys, and and that's the reason why some kids wind up with the milkman as their father, as the story goes. So it's not, and it's not to desensitize from it. It's to put some like foundation of where does it come from? Because a woman is not necessarily, was it just F random decides to go ahead, I'm just going to go ahead and have an affair, right? It's calculated.
Yes,
Why?
it definitely is. It definitely
Why?
is.
Okay, if we can agree upon that, right? Then I mean, I remember I watched this BBC documentary about sex, and it was pretty interesting because in the documentary they discuss about that women can have several different types of orgasms. One that is for mating, and one is for was it just for a lover? And the operation of such orgasm is to make sure to block the cervix from dipping in and collecting the sperm. This is for what selectively, biologically, women do this biologically. So to prevent giving birth or getting pregnant. Now, in contrast with an actual mate, they want to have, an actual offspring. They open the floodgates and voila. I think that piece of information would have been very helpful for a lot of guys if they realized that, oh, wait a minute. Oh, okay, well, okay, I'm screwed. But, and why did somebody tell me the facts? Well, because society lies to you and guising it in that, oh, it's called cheating and it's called this. Let's take a look at the facts. It's because we are human. It's humanity.
Let me jump in here for a moment. You said something that a lot of people don't quite understand, and let me
Exactly.
peel back the layer of the onion a little bit for
I'm
the
gonna
people who don't quite grasp what he's talking about. We know that there are couples together who cannot conceive, but the moment that woman goes and lays with another man, she ends up pregnant. That's what he's speaking to. Some women cheat because they don't never think they'll get caught. That is also a reason why some women do it. You have women that say, look, I've been sleeping with him I've been sleeping with my husband for 3 or 4 years. I've never conceived a child. So they go out and they have a random affair. And next thing you know, she's pregnant. The husband's ecstatic. But he's not thinking. He said, we've been trying for years, and all of a sudden now we got this miracle baby. Years down the road, he starts to get a little suspicious, and he says, wait a minute. We've been having sex 3 times a week for months and months on end, and all of a sudden now you just conceive, and he starts to get a little curious. He goes down, he has the DNA test,
You guys,
and finds out the kid isn't his.
do you guys remember the skit from Cat Williams where he was in the film? He's saying, that's not my baby, that's my baby, right? That one has got a credit score of 700. That's definitely not my baby. That's from the Caucasus Mountain. Remember that skit? You remember that, right?
I know, but that's funny though.
You don't remember? Okay, so
No.
I remember watching it, and it's like, wait a minute, he looks just like the guard. What the hell's going on here? Because he was playing a role that he was in prison. He was a cat in prison, and his so-called wife and his kid and his baby decide to show up. Wait, is that my kid? How do I know it's my kid? I don't know. The last time I slept with you was before. It's like when he was a kid. I don't know how this one got here, right? To speak of it, but that was lampooned. But it's lampooned is because it's true, right? But see, a lot of people they wrap up the emotion and align it because they don't understand it, right? There's a science behind it. If you understand the nature of the beast, you understand yourself. That's something I learned early on, right? And that's essentially part of the problem with humanity as a whole, right? We have labels for things that don't need to be there. We have concepts for things that are not based on reality. It's based on a fantasy of what assumptions they make. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example, not necessarily based on cheating, but just to illustrate a point, right? I remember when I first dated my wife, right? She got into trouble and she got stuck at the office. So I took my time because I knew it was her fault. So when I come pick her up, right? So she said she wanted to go the next day to go to a sushi bar, right? A Korean bar with a friend, and I was supposed to attend it, right? So I worked extremely hard because I was just I had just left Activision. I was in between gigs, and I was really trying to push hard for, because I was also a graphic designer. So, case in point, I was working a lot of hours, and so I decided to go ahead and go to the sushi bar with them. And at the end of the meal, she goes, "Okay, you have to pay for both of us." What? Excuse me? What? Huh? You have to pay for my friend. Why? Well, because you can inconvenience us. I'm like, what? I said, huh? What are you talking about? She goes, well, you have to pay for me and her. I'm like, where? Well, because you're a man. I'm like, okay, if I'm a man, so am I having sex with her tonight? No. Well, then fuck you. You can go fucking pay. And her friend, realizing what my wife at the time was doing, said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to just, it's a total misunderstanding. You're not obliged to pay for me. I said, you know what? Dear, don't worry about it. You don't owe me for sex. I'll just go ahead and pay for you. If you think it's like I deserve sex, you come and give it to me. It came close.
And
But-
to follow up what he is saying, we often hear about female prison guards sleeping with inmates. We've also heard about Megan. Give me a moment. Megan Hall, the police officer in Tennessee, who's married, who was sleeping with members of the police force. Now, the way this is playing out is her defense team is trying to say that they groomed her to engage in such activities. I don't know if it's true. I don't care. I'm just using that for the sake of this discussion, is that there's a lot of things that when we don't quite know a person's background can always surface. They call them latent traits. And when the situations are right, when situations are right and things align, you will see a person behaving in ways that you think are abnormal, but they're normal for this individual because certain conditions have been met. Women get drunk. She around here flashing people doing this, and people say, that's not her. No, actually, that is her. She's just managed to keep a good grip on it because she hasn't been drinking. This is why they tell people, hey, look, a sober mind, a drunk mind behaves like a sober one, also speaks like a sober one. So a lot of people, they'll see something and it's off-putting to them. They say, yo, get a few drinks in her, she'll run through the squad.
And I think some people know that. And as much as women don't think, men talk. So, and they listen. So if one of their boys already put the 411 out there on you, and y'all have a history, and they like, shit, okay, he ain't have no feelings for that I know of like that. Damn, I already know the blueprint to get her. Y'all don't think about that. Yeah, y'all don't think that men talk. So then you just go around and you're just being recycled from individuals. So you can never, and I often tell my middle school students this, can't change it. Like once you put stuff out there,
Yeah,
it's hard to change your reputation. Like it's gonna travel with you. So things that you're doing now, you're young, but it's gonna carry with you in high school. So now you're gonna be a target for high school. Like, oh, this chick does this, she does that, and best believe it's gonna be people with more game. You're dealing with, you're in ninth grade and you got juniors and seniors saying, oh, that little shorty right there, she's stat. She only in a ninth. I'm gonna see what it can do because I drive, I got a whip, or whatever the case is. Yeah, I'm about to bag her and all this stuff. It's amazing. In their fire events, it's so much going on that is scary. And a lot of times they're in my office and they're talking amongst each other and I act like I don't even hear it. I was like, I just can't take it more. It's just too much going on. But the reality is, this is how it is with life. Man, like this subject it's so many areas you could cover. It's so many things. So I want to apologize to her. Like, okay, we don't really know what you're talking about, but we read the Facebook post talking about the woman who got caught with another man in her bed by her husband, and I wanted to break it down on like why women cheat, and then the second thing is why the reaction, the impact it has on men once they've been cheated on. Because sometimes, people automatically assume that the men are the ones that's doing all the cheating, and but they never look at it when the roles is reversed, and the impact on men. Because sometimes women they'll never forget it, but they'll just slide back into their position. But men, it's a lot of psychological stuff that happens. Like, severe depression and anxiety, the anger, the rage. And so I think we need to move forward on that position and talk about that.
It let me speak from personal perspective. When I had my situation, I was disillusioned, but I was disillusioned for a different set of reasons than most men would be. Now, it wasn't that I was going to marry this female, even in hindsight, that wasn't something that was on the table in the cards then, and certainly isn't now. The individual, a great person otherwise, but like I said, because of what I had been told prior, I said if it comes to pass, I won't be upset. And I wasn't. But when it happened, I just didn't think it was going to. And it was in that instant that I realized that just because I'm a good guy doesn't mean I can't have bad things. So now as a man, you start to ask yourself, if I did everything right, nothing wrong, and this is the end result, then why am I going to be a good guy? And all of a sudden now, because the same principle that applies to a good woman also applies to a good man. If you destroy a good man, he's going to go rogue. But the way a man is going to go rogue is he's going to be destructive, not necessarily within himself, but within the environment. This is why you hear about men going on shooting rampages, harming people, because when men become destructive, they turn that destructive nature outside. And it's like a loaded gun, and it points away from everybody else. We're fortunate if the person engages in self-deletion. That way the violence, if you will, is contained. And I don't advocate for anyone doing that. I advocate for that individual to go get some type of counseling, to the point where they can function. But sometimes a man never recovers. He just, simply put, he just doesn't. So he's like a nomad wandering from place to place to place. If he happens to catch a woman, he's only going to have sex with her. He's never going to make it a point of bedding down permanently and establishing anything. Heaven forbid if they have a kid. That kid is going to be in for a very difficult, at least, youth. The hope is that when that kid gets of age, he or she can speak to their father and find out what happened, and they can say, okay, you know what? I don't want that, so let me try something different. That's the hope, but that doesn't necessarily mean that is going to come to pass. So when a man suffers infidelity, it's catastrophic. And I know some people say, well, it's catastrophic for women. Yes, to a degree. Women,
and I agree with you.
Yeah, women aren't going to go out and start killing people in mass. Now, she may self-destroy herself in terms of saying that, okay,
Stacking numbers.
yes, she's going to go out and she's going to randomly sleep with guys. This is why we always say that for a young girl, it's vital to have a father that can guide that in a way so if something does happen, she can revert back to the village for the protection, because the village is going to say, hey, look, similar to what Rick Cloud was saying, that's human nature. That's human nature to do some of the things that you're thinking about. But because we're sentient beings, we have to rise above that. So take some time, withdraw, heal yourself. Everybody remembers me talking about the 6 years that I withdrew from dating. That was why. Because I went through my own set of issues regarding the false paternity. It was at that particular point in time that I had to address why I was in the situations that I was in. It was fortunate enough for me that I had the wherewithal to do that, but a lot of people simply don't. And you do not want to run into one of those people and date them.
So let me just share a little testimony for myself, and then I definitely want to hear from Jackie, because we covered a lot, and I know she stepped away. But I can remember, and I think it was sort of like what Thomas said, when I was in high school. I think I was a senior, and I thought this young lady, I thought this is it. This is it. Like we gonna ride this sunset. I go to my college, she go to her college, but we gonna connect, and everything's gonna be all right. Well, things ain't work out that way. And she went to her college, I went to mine. It's a it's a lot to it. It's always a lot to it. But I'm just gonna give I really wanted to be with her, and I was in Niagara Falls, she's in Buffalo. So I'm like, okay, when can I see you? And it was excuse after excuse after excuse. And when we finally, it was our freshman year, Thanksgiving time, she came home. She still wasn't acting right. I shared it with one of my homeboys, like, yo, something ain't right. But I don't think he gave me the advice that I needed, because his advice, remember we were talking about how guys handle stuff. He told me, couldn't have been me. I would have killed her. What? I'm 18 years old. I'm not about to kill no woman. He's like, couldn't be. She cheated on me. I would have killed her. So you wonder why you have to be careful who you share stuff with and who influenced you. Now that in hindsight, when I look back at it, I was like, I was a damn fool even listening, because we actually had a session, and I don't even know why he was there. It was me, her, and him. And we talked about it and reflected on it. And he went off on her more than I did.
Ooh.
Because I think I was willing to say, you know what? I was willing to forgive her because I had some things going on myself. But it wasn't to the extent. I think my counter reaction was because felt like I was getting neglected by her. But I think me and her could have worked it out. But I had him come through. I don't know why he was the mediator. I don't know why he took it so personal, but he went in on her. And
He's only coming from a place of what he's been through. So I'm sorry.
Yeah. But I guess what he been through, I really shouldn't have had his place of hurt impact my situation. And so, and I'm looking at my notes and all this stuff. All this stuff really tied together, because everything we're talking about, everything is on my notes. about the anger, the rage of not sharing, men not being able to share with their friends and things of that nature. So it's just wild. So just think about that, people. But go ahead. I want to give you opportunity to talk, Jackie, about what you've heard so far because you heard a lot.
Yeah, actually, men do go through a lot more after they've been hurt and cheated on. I told you when I first started that I was counseling people, males who have been cheated on, going through divorce, and they're going through a lot of pain. And I didn't realize how much and how deep the pain goes for men. And once Herb was explaining that, I'm like, he's right because it just. I'm sorry, at the sink. Um, he's right, and I really and truly, I feel for the men, good men that have been used, abused, and mistreated, and then they have to walk their life in that hurt mode, like they have to keep protecting themselves from everything and everyone. And it's a shame because when you break a king, we damage our society.
Yeah.
And women don't look at that because a lot of them are looking at what it is that they're lacking, what is it they want. The grass is greener on the other side. So they feel like, oh, let's play this game and let me get my fill of whatever. But these are people without morals and values. When there is no morals and no values, this is what you get.
Mhm.
And then, as far as cultural, being Jamaican for me, as a as an Arawak Indian and Irish woman, this queen right here, we were raised a way that is going to foster goodness, respect, kindness, love, and care towards other people. So that's what I grew up under. And so that's all I can give. But when I have to help mend a king's life, and I'm seeing that at this age, I didn't even realize how much a man hurt, and then I have to now try to help it and cater to it and try to fix it so that they're not stuck in the thought of, you know what, all women are like this, and I will never trust another woman because of this, because they're still saying those things to me as well. And I have to remind them that even though I'm not in a relationship with them and I'm trying to help them get past and through this stuff, you see that there are good people out here. There are good women out here. I am an example of one. So I have to kind of bring them back to something that is tangible. Me. You understand what I'm saying? So they can see it. It's not everybody out there who are cutthroat. Not everyone out there who are ready to just take everything from you and stab you in the back and minimize and demean and just make you feel like you're nothing. Not every woman wants that. But it's the kind of woman that we pick up out there, men. When the men goes for just the outer stuff, when the women just go for the outer stuff, and there's nothing rooted or grounded in anything righteous in that person's head, as in that man's head, if they don't have morals and values to stand on, you're gonna pick just anything. You're gonna walk up in the club and say, okay, I can hit this, and this. And then if your life is like that, by the time you do settle down, then you're so messed up as well. I just believe people should really understand who they're with before they jump into bed with them. They should understand if that person is a honest person just by the communication, just by communicating. And if a person's going to show themselves, they're going to show themselves after maybe a couple weeks, as long as her Herb's 100 and something questions need to be addressed. Amen. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. Okay. I am standing with him on them questions. Okay. And that's real. That's real. When I heard about his questions, I was like, I need to implement this. Seriously. But that's real. It allowed people to really address things that they normally wouldn't. And even though I may say to a person, hey, you need to ask them that, you need to ask them that, and then see how they look after you say that. And then I can verbally say things, but
You need to send me that info because I need to hand it off to some folks. Okay.
Like I said, I started the outline. I'm closing in on 300 questions, and not to segue, people, but what I realized was I started writing this for men, and then when I got into the panel, I realized that I would kind of be doing a disservice if I only predicated this toward men. And the reason why I was only predicating this toward men was because I was under, I won't say the false assumption, but I was operating from the standpoint of men have to initiate the conversation. Now I realize that the culture that we're in terms of women are going to actually have to step into a male role, if you will. She's going to need to do her own fact finding. And if she's incapable of knowing what questions to ask, then she's at a severe disadvantage, because if she comes into a guy that's a manipulator, he's a hustler, he's a fast talker, she's still operating from a standpoint of deficiency. So there is no way in the world that she should realistically hope to be able to get the information she requires to make a decent decision, because we tend to look at decisions as either good or bad. And I want to get people away from categorizing decisions like that. We need to look at decisions in terms of a good decision, a benign decision, or a poor decision. Good decisions, everything turns out well. Benign decisions, nothing really bad happened, nothing good happened. It's just a decision. A poor decision can have repercussions that have not yet come to pass. We always talk about this, and this is go back to the first topic, the first talking point. A woman being unfaithful and having a child outside of the Western culture's norms of marriage. If that guy finds out and he puts her out the house, where does she go? Something else that was talked about in the opening scenario. And I found out where the culture from. That culture is from India, where they usually stone women for being unfaithful. That's why she was afraid that he was going to take her before the family, because if he exposed that secret, she was done.
You can tell by regardless of the culture, right? You can tell by the result where the women are stoned that this is motivated by religion. It's not motivated by any biological sense, and I'll explain the reason why. Perfect example are lions in the wild, right? When a prospective male looks at a female and says, I want it, the very first thing it does is kill the offspring.
Mm-hmm.
Kill the offspring. So that way she loses interest and decides to mate with it, because she automatically ovulates. So that it's the same thing with bears. Same thing. This is science. Okay. So when you see social, I guess, social results where the women are punished to the point of death, it defeats the purpose of why they do it to begin with, is because it's territory, it's genetic success.
Mm-hmm.
So you defeat the purpose by killing the woman that, is a potential success, right? It's pointless. So the only thing you're doing is thinning the herd. It's not necessarily the right herd you're thinning.
Right.
So I say this, and it's very brutally honest, because it's a fact, scientific fact. So if you take a look retrospectively, right? Because I heard, and I had it on mute because I know that my mic is kind of high. And when Herb was talking about in school, well, it just so happens that 99% of the problems has to do with public education, because look at what the shit show mess they have now. Do you think it's based upon any moral values? I'm not saying, that we should have, religion taught in school. No, it's about civility and and humanity, right? I was taught at an early age. I think one of the first prayers I was taught was a prayer of the four winds, the four directions. And it goes, four winds, the four directions, the four sisters. The four sisters went four different directions after the Younger Dryas event. And grandmother told her, it's like mother told her daughters to spread out through the earth. Those bands are the red band, black band, yellow band, white band. We are all one people, humanity. And everything that we described, right, as far as cheating, that's trying to challenge an actual biological behavior that's instinctive to procreate, right? So we're punishing. It's like a dog going outside to take a piss, and you whack the dog because that's not the right place to piss. The only thing that the dog knows is that, wait a minute, I'm a fucking animal. I can piss wherever I want. Why are you telling me I need to piss here? Oh, okay, I'll listen to you, right? Similarly, right, like I was telling before in the beginning of the discussion, we are desensitized from ourselves as human animals. We don't understand the human beast. And they don't teach that in public school, not anymore. I remember some, symbolic or like something similar to what I'm describing way early in my education. And you don't see those topics touched on anymore. It's been completely obliterated, like it never existed.
Well, let me speak to that. And the reason that is because they're teaching to a test, because they're getting federal government money to take these tests, and schools are not the same. Before, you could get educated and you learn like basic knowledge or skills but they got to get through the curriculum. So it's a money thing. It's a money thing. They destroyed education and all that stuff. So some kids, they get it because they connect with the right adults and they get these conversations, these life skill conversations. But for most, if they don't get it from home, they're not going to get it from school. They have nowhere to get it. So where they get it from is social media, videos, and stuff like that, and they're screwed. That's just the bottom line. Greed and money probably has destroyed education as well. I know Gavin is here, so I want him to have opportunity to speak. Gavin,
Hello.
what's going on? I know you heard a lot, and I know you got something to say. So what's your take on some of the things you heard?
Oh, a whole lot. I've had my experience with an ex-girlfriend where I was cheated on. With that one, and that was an interesting situation. We were together, and I had gotten a job whereby my work schedule was not clicking with hers. And I had a lot of hours overtime, so I was just tired at the end of the day or the end of the week. So I wasn't like ready, like, yeah, to go out and party. She could party and then go to her job, which the shift then starts like noon. She was a telemarketer and I was in security. Long story short, since I couldn't hang with her like we're used to in the early part of the relationship, she straight up told me to my face, okay, well, if you can't give me the kind of attention I want, I'm going to find a man who can. Bam. Okay, cool. We went our separate ways. Done. Bye. Months later, she's calling me up, blowing my phone. I don't respond. until like maybe sometime later, like maybe a week or two later. Why are you calling me? Well, we can't just be friends. No, this happens over and over for like, weeks, months in between, until one time I decided to call her back that same day, rather wait a few days or a week. She left me a message that she moved back into her grandmother's house, for whatever reason. So I called the house. Lo and behold, some dude answers the phone.
Wow.
Who's the dude? Her ex-husband that she told me she had put in jail because he put hands on her.
Mm.
And I'm like, holy shit. What the hell? While I'm on the phone with him, who who is driving up the driveway from, shopping for groceries? Her.
Hmm.
I play it off like I'm a friend of the family just came into town and I'm trying to look up, her dad. I hear playing when she walks into the room, hands the groceries to the, ex-hubby, whatever, and here, put this stuff in the fridge. Okay. Then he tells her, oh, I'm on the phone. She answers the phone, and I'm like, she says hello. I say hello. She's like, oh, let me get you back on that. I have to like get the information that you want. I have to pay for somewhere else. I go click. Never heard from her again.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm I'm sorry you went through that. Seriously, it's so heartbreaking, honestly. And I'm talking from a woman's from me. It is so heartbreaking to hear the stuff that these women, and I'm as a woman, I didn't think that women were so cutthroat and treacherous like this. But I'm sorry. I have really, for real. Oh God, I'm sorry you went through that.
Thank you. Thank you. And like you just heard, when a woman gets cheated on, she hurts herself afterwards. Us men, when we get cheated on, we take out everybody. I had enough maturity not to do so, but I did take it as a very bitter learning lesson to like, I don't have like 106 questions like Herb has, but I do lay back and let that woman, every woman I dated afterwards, I got on 2 relations afterwards, but I just realized lay patient and let them show me who they are.
They damn sure gonna show you.
I had
Yes,
to.
like
I
Maya
had to.
Angelou said,
Sorry.
when a person show you their true self, believe them.
Correct.
I had to train myself because after a couple attempts, and it was actually a friend that worked in the hospitality industry that set me straight and said, "Don't think with your pants, think with your heart. If they know that it doesn't matter to you who you sleep with, but it's not good. It's when it's your sperm or not. Then they're not going to. Their chances are they're probably not going to cheat because it's not going to piss you off because you don't care. If and is it right or is it wrong? And it really all depends. I remember, it's like I remember this because I've had this discussion with every single person I've been with, and also my wife. I said to her, "Look, listen. I don't. If you think I can't cut the mustard as far as in the sack is concerned, go find someone that can. I'm okay with it, right? Because I'd rather you be happy than be miserable. I'm not interested in miserable. And the reason why I said that, right, specifically at that instant, because I had already survived cancer once, and I'd gone through some major hell, like mentally and also physically. So is with the understanding of like, my time might be up, and I didn't, it's like there are better things to think about. And the reason why is this, right? If you ask me the reason why I'm a father, my answer is simple. It's to prepare for my death. Once I become a father, whatever it is that I am, husband or anything else, is secondary. my life is forfeit to the children. That's how I was brought up. And the reason why that's how I could say that is because my parents didn't do that for me. My grandparents did. I kept that value of sacrifice and suffering. That's actually part of our family motto. And even though, for whatever intents and purposes, I failed as a husband, there's no way I fail as a father. Absolutely not. I have 3 kids of my own and 1 that I adopted. And that was from, oddly enough, from a friend that's African American. And I'm proud to be a father. It's what keeps me glued because it grounds me in reality. It's not about me, it's about them. And that's, like I was saying before, that, I mean, because we can say that why do women cheat? Well, we can say equally, why do men cheat? We know that the biological part is because it's instinctive. They're just not in control of their senses. But the other part is systemic. It's part of the society, right? There are no family values, none. And the minute that, if you were to tell a woman of this generation, well, the minute that you become a mother, it's not about you anymore. It's about that baby. You have to sacrifice yourself 100%. They go, oh no, I passed. No, I don't want the responsibility. They might say it at first, but then it's like, this is getting old. I can't do this anymore. I've heard that said. There's a lot of babies that go in a dumpster because of that. That's because this society is sick. So we can continually say about why that women do it, but what we're talking about is equally the same for men. Why do men do it? For the same bullshit reasons that women do it. At least that's what they tell themselves. I know that I remember, and I'm going to, by the way, it's good to see you, Gavin. I miss you, brother, and it's good to hear your voice.
Always here, brother.
Always here too, to the end. I remember, I don't know if it was you, Gavin, or, well, okay. So I've had several friends that went through divorce or broke up. This one particularly was in the service, and I couldn't have relationships because of what I was doing in the service. I was not allowed to date. I was not allowed to be married or anything. I couldn't have any relationships whatsoever. So it was a struggle for me. It really was. And here, my friend, I went gambling one night and won a free hall pass to the Lady Luck for a month because I was held it straight on a crap table for 48 minutes straight without crapping out. So the management gave me like free steak dinner with a card that I can go in anytime, and also gave me a free room. No sooner did that happen, like 2 weeks later, right? And we all knew the lady is like the wife. She was having an affair with other people in the squadron. And I don't mention names because, it's a little bit humiliating. So he was like totally devastated. It's like, oh. It's like, we tried to tell you, man. We tried to tell you. It's like, oh, I can't believe it. I said, and he would be qualified as a simp, right? He is the sweetest freaking guy. He was such an amazing person. So I said, hey, I understand she kicked you out. Yeah, she kicked me out. I said, here, take my hotel card. You can stay there for a couple months. It doesn't matter. He goes, what? Because of something I did, chain reaction, he gets that. And I said, you know what, man? You're going to tell yourself what I want you to tell yourself. She did you a favor. You're going to find someone that is definitely meant for you because you deserve it. And he did. Later, he became, I think, a radiologist or something like that. And he's been married, I don't know how many years now, to the same woman. Same woman. And regardless of the problems, I guarantee you, whatever it is, sexuality or otherwise, they talk to each other like adults should, right? They talk to each other with mutual understanding and respect because they think the same way. They get it. They're not about the bullshit. They're about actually loving each other. And I think that's one of the principal things that in the society, it shuns. You can't have those true values to love somebody because you got to mask it with all this other crap. If you dare actually feel that way, you are shunned for being weak. That should tell you right away that this society, we talk about cheating, but it's a society of psychosis. All of it is. You can, if you read up the definition, everything we described in terms of deception, in terms of mental deception, it's in there for a reason.
Well,
I'm going to stop now because I want to hear from Jacques specifically. I hope I'm pronouncing it right because it's a French name and I speak French. And anyway, so Jacques, I want to hear your opinion on what I said. I want to hear specifically from a woman's perspective.
Jackie?
I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm here. Give me a moment. Distracted. Just continue. I'll jump in a moment.
All right. So
Go ahead, Dave.
So
I
when you
wanted to hear from her, but yeah.
hold on.
Yeah.
I got this. So when you look at all, it's so many different layers, and that's the point of having these conversations, because everybody has different perspectives and different life experiences. There's no perfect solution to any of this, and that's the point of talking about it, because the thing is, we're really not talking. We're talking amongst our people, our families, sisters and brothers, but none of this stuff is helping. And we keep saying, and I've heard this a couple times, schools are not teaching them. Well, schools never taught certain things. But then again, when I went to school, the best thing I learned from teachers is life experiences. And those the teachers that are like, I really like this teacher because they're not always talking about facts. I mean, education stuff. They're connecting life experiences to the lesson. And a lot of times, well, I already know these kids like, oh, why y'all keep talking about that back in the days or this and that. They don't want to hear that. So we have to be innovative. We have to be creative. We have to come up with other methods to get through young people and shit, get through adults, because again, some of these people are clueless. They don't know where to begin. They don't know how to interact. They don't know how to have a relationship. They never was taught that. They may look good, nice body, or it might be a guy that's handsome or whatever, but he doesn't know what to do or what to say to have a functioning relationship. And we really need to think about having like different workshops and stuff going on that people join it, and we just have different topics. Okay, we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about, let alone people don't know how to do resumes. They don't know how to interview for anything. Some people don't know how to do shit.
That's true.
Put it to you bluntly. And how are we gonna survive? You could request only, well, let's put out some grant money and this and that. That shit, they ain't thinking about that. They want they like for it to be like this. They love it.
Chaotic.
And that's why I told you that I meant, before I mentor young people, I mentor anyone who wants guidance. And the thing is, this world, this world is really going to hell in a handbasket. And I just feel like no one, because of young people having babies having babies, they're not instilling the morals and values that's really needed out here. So it takes people like yourself, me, and other people who care about the things that's happening out here to even make a difference in some of these young people's lives by giving them some direction, because they really don't. They follow the social media with stuff. They follow the internet with stuff. They follow a lot of the TV movies, the Real Housewives of stuff, and all these different things, and everything out there that they watch is guiding them. So we have to accept what we get from that. The world is calling right wrong and wrong right. So
Yeah.
no
That's
moral,
definitely a
no
big one.
morals. hmm
Unfortunately, I say this because of the experience. You get to the realization, you come to the point where you understand that it is pointless to save them. The few that you can save,
What?
that are willing to change.
Pointless?
That are, was that?
Okay. You said pointless?
I said it becomes pointless. You start seeing it as pointless. It becomes a mute point. And the reason why is because, especially from, like, say, for instance, from the angle of abuse, alcohol abuse or substance abuse, right? It becomes, and this has been said a lot of times, it's a choice. If they continually decide to choose to be self-destructive, that's a practice of insanity. And there's no point. You could try and save them, but at the end, it's just someone like trying to commit suicide. If they really want to commit suicide, they're going to do it, no matter if you try to stop them or not. It's the same thing of someone trying to have an affair. They're going to do it regardless if you say so or not. If they're going to do it, they're going to do it. It's a conscious decision. There are people that I've tried to counsel in the past, right? And it's very sobering when you know that as much as you try to help them, it's pointless.
Okay, I have a question. Could you stop for
Sure.
1 second? Because you
Sure.
know, the more you keep saying there is pointless, it's pointless, it's pointless. That's not okay. I'm wondering, like, are you the type of person to give up on people?
No, I don't give up on people. But like any good friend, if you're going to help a friend to get on their feet, make sure it's their own 2 feet. And unfortunately, there's going to be casualties. It's an acceptance of casualties that regardless of what effort you get, it seems, like I said, it seems like it's pointless. But you continue on. I haven't stopped helping people if that was the case. No, absolutely not. But you get to a determination that some people are ready, some people are not, and some people will just never learn. Like Herbert said, right? Some people can't even wipe their own ass. And that's just, you have to have a serious conversation with those people.
So let me say this, and I told one of my coworkers before. I said, I've been in the game a long time. I said, I gotta mute you, homie. I said, so one of the things is I'm not gonna chase anybody around who needs help. The ones that want to be helped, they're gonna come to you. And the same thing as far as friendships and life, whatever. There's certain people we have to let go.
Yeah.
And even with kids, like, I'm not about to chase. I'm not about to walk around and look at somebody. Oh, you're not smiling today. You want to come to my office and talk? I don't got time for that shit. Like, if you know where I'm at, you know how to get to me, because we're dealing with a shortage in every aspect, in education, in the healthcare field. I don't have time to be able to decipher that. So the ones, what we have to learn from this is people have to have navigation skills. Like, I have to get what I can get from certain individuals, and I have to make it happen. Well, unfortunately, when you're dealing with kids, if their parents haven't taught them and you don't get a chance to teach them in school, then they will not know how to navigate.
Yeah.
which is the sad thing. So a lot of kids get lost because they don't know how to navigate. But when you speak of adults, I don't got time to listen to bullshit day after day after day after day when you're grown. And maybe you never was taught how to navigate, but I look at you as an adult, I just don't have time. My focus is kids.
Yeah,
My focus is kids.
it's kind of like triage on a battlefield. You're not gonna expend resources to someone who you might be able to save, as opposed to someone you know you can save. The ones you know you can save, you're gonna allocate the resources to them. The ones that you're not sure of, you say, hey, look, what's left over is what you get, is what Thomas is talking about when we talk about acceptable losses. It pains people to say it, but when you're dealing with reality, you actually have to deal with what's in front of you and not what you hope for. And I think that's the difference between men and women. Men don't operate on the premise of hope, because hope can get you stuck. Men operate on the premise of what we know we can do. This is why men who get stuck in that hope phase, particularly when dealing with relationships, they stay there. They never move off of that. This is why when we talk to other men about problems, we say, hey, look, man, we understand it's a bad situation you in. You know, this happened, that happened. You can't control any of that. The only thing you can control are your behavior. It happened. You got two choices. Either you're going to wallow in self-pity, or you're going to clean up, put yourself back together, and you're going to move on as best you possibly can. Some men never make it to that level. That's why they self-delete. It becomes too great for them. Nobody wants to see that, but we understand that that's a part of the life process. Just not everybody goes through it. I mean, hell, you can, and I tell people, Facebook's the greatest social experiment that mankind has known up to this point. All you got to do is put the questions out there, put it out there anonymously, and ask, how many men, due to a relationship, hit rock bottom and they didn't think there was anything else to do? And just watch the responses. You will be surprised at the men that just said, you know what? I just started drinking, and drinking. Because they didn't have anything else to turn to. No family. Hope. I just hope I see the next day. I hope I see the next drink. That's what hope does for a lot of men.
And the thing, not to cut you off, Herb, and the thing is, it's not, they have family, but the embarrassment.
Right.
You can't, you're supposed to be a strong man. You can't go and say, this is what happened. So you're embarrassed. So a lot of times as men, we deal with a lot of avoidance issues.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't want to talk about it, want to keep it moving, don't want anything to do with that shit because I got to keep it moving because right now I'm strong. I don't want to bring that up no more. I don't want to talk about it.
There's a story that I was taught at an early age, and it was to teach a lesson about the human lesson of your actions and the repercussions they may have. And that regardless of how much you may consider it, there's no forgiving it. You just have to move on with blood in your hands. It was a story about a young brave that, a young warrior that was foolish. And his tribe told him several times, right, you need to be careful so that way you don't alert the enemy tribe of our presence. And he had a family, he had a mother and a father. And so he decided to carelessly, hunt for game that wasn't his. It doesn't belong to territory, didn't belong to them. It belonged to the enemy tribe. And he was gloating on his glory of all the, he said, oh, it's going to be a fantastic feast. I've caught so many of them. My family's going to be happy. And when he got to the village, right, he was talking to the family, but no one would respond to him. Not one. He would talk to them. He goes, "Hello, where are you? Are you there? Come on, talk to me." And then his mother turned around and saying, "We are sorry, son, but it is too late. We are already ghosts. We're not really here, but we're here to tell you as a lesson. You can't come back here." And he goes, "Oh, I'll try. I mean, I'll make this up to you." I said, "There's no making it up. You did what you did. You have two choices. You can continue doing what you're doing and destroying the next tribe over, or you can do something with yourself, but you have to move on. You can't stay here." That lesson has been taught to many tribes, and that is the path of the unforgiven. It's not to say, and so that way you understand this culture has nothing to do with Christianity at all in terms of concept. The concept of the path of the unforgiven is this, right? For people that have the habit of abusing, right, they can't go back to that same environment, that same situation, because they're just going to do it over again. Their salvation is for them to move on and to better themselves, knowing that they will always, always have blood on their hands they can never wash off. This lesson is taught culturally. It was taught culturally in our tribe from where we're very young when we do our first hunt, because we have blood on our hands we can never wash off. We have to kill an animal that should be alive but isn't, and then must by our culture, right? It's a spiritual kill. So that animal now joins, because now you're responsible for that animal spirit, and you have to carry that animal spirit for your life in replacement of the life you took. You have to offer your journey to that animal. Now, in addition to that, you're taught to put blood on your hands and wipe it on your face as a reminder that now you're as one. You can never wash it off. Never. Accountability and responsibility. It starts with, like what Herb said, with our children. I know that men that and women alike, that when they resurface that hunter instinct, right? Those skills that we were taught way back, even it's like 30s. And it's like, yes, I know that tribes in Africa still practice this. It doesn't guarantee that things are perfect, but it guarantees a society that functions where people are not toxic and people treat each other with equal respect. It's not a utopia. It's something that we can observe today. But yeah, if you want to quantify it as tribal, so be it. I'm proud. I'm proud to be a tribal. It's part of my, sovereignty. It's part of my heritage. I don't see any reason why to shame away from it.
Yeah. Some people, they don't embrace things that are esoteric. Standing out from the crowd is difficult for a lot of people. That's why a lot of people they tend to think that when they're among the group that they're safe. That's because they're hiding. We hear people talking about, when they're dating, they don't want to meet somebody's representative. They want to meet them. And the question begs to be asked, do you really want to meet the person that's sitting across from you? Do you really want to know them? Because that's something I'm actually touching about in the outline. Because let's look at this, from a virtual standpoint. I could kill somebody and be in another part of the country by sunrise. I could go meet a woman, convince her that I am the sunshine, kill her, move to another part of the country, and repeat that. Say the fourth woman that I sit down with and I say to her, I said, you know what? I said, Ebony, you know what? I just killed 3 women. Do you think Ebony's really gonna believe me? She's gonna say, no, I don't believe you. You don't look like the type of guy that just killed 3 women. But this is the reality that we're faced with. We never know who we're sitting across from. We never know what that person has been through. We don't know what that person is capable of until they're pushed. And it so often happens that when some people are pushed, it's too late. They're not coming back.
I suffered heavily from PTSD. I didn't see any like warfare. It's just the nasty shit I had to do in the service and the training I went through. It really messed up my mind to the point where I couldn't have anyone touch me, and it took a while before I became intimate again with anyone. And my wife one night, this was before we got married. My wife one night, because she knew I was in the service, but she didn't know how bad it was until like a couple of nights she heard me like screaming at the top of my lungs and then trying to search for a gun underneath my bed that doesn't exist. And the one night that I remember that she remembers where I was completely sound asleep, she tried to even just touch my stomach, and I wasn't awake. My hand instinctively went for the throat, and she like didn't even move, right? And she waited until I laxed, and then I passed out. And then later she told me about it, and I panicked. Is because that was the reason why I wasn't ready yet to be anyone, because I was always on a 10, always doing situational awareness, looking over my shoulder, right? And yeah, part of it was the abuse in the service, but part of it was the training. And it would serve like with altercations that certain altercations I had with law enforcement. Of course, it was deemed as self-defense, but I did it to the point of I could have killed them if I wanted to, and I had to, it's like I had to stop myself and try to find a way to find peace, because I wasn't interested in being this way, right? And when she talked to me, and this is to let you know that people are human, right? She said, "What did you do in the service?" I said, "I can't tell you that." And she said, "You almost killed me by accident." And I said, "What?" And she told me what happened. And like I said, I was terrified. And she said, "It's okay, because my brother went into the service and something similar happened." And she was sympathetic, right? That's what bonded me to my wife, in spite of whatever like flaw that she had, right? That's what bonded me to her, is because for the first time, I felt like someone heard my voice, and I could like relax. And when my first son was born, and I have tons of pictures, my first son, EW, he was always right on top of my chest. And at first my wife was worried, right? But then when she saw how protective I was, asleep and awake with Elmi, my paternal skills were like off the roof. I was a bear. I literally that's when the birth of the bear came to fruition, where, I became a father. Anything else, including all this BS of cheating this and that ceased to exist for me. And the only value that made sense was to be this man's father. That's the only thing. And then when my second child was born, it was the same thing. When my third child was born, identical. And like I said, my godson Jaden, right? The minute he walked in the door and was friends with my son, I treated him like he was my own flesh and blood, always, because that to me meant more sense than whatever in this society could offer. It's about giving of myself. So and I don't. It's like I want other people to talk, right, and put their opinion. But I had to say this is because I know there's a lot of single fathers out there that are struggling and they feel alone and they feel like there is no real justice in society, right? Because we can demonize the woman or demonize the men, but then we're not really paying attention to the real problem here with all these social problems. It all points down to the next generation and how much they're going to suffer because of our folly. We choose to ignore the warning signs. I at least try to do damage control, making sure that my children, when I die, they are a better person than I ever was. I don't want them to be equal to me. I want them to be better than me. Better than me. That value is not in Western society. It's all about, well, it's all about me. He's my property. He's my mini-me, right? Helicopter parents. My God, it's just insane. And you see a lot of these children, right? If you want to blame, the woman for it's sure fun because when they're adult, they make their choice. But look at the genesis of that, right? You see the cause and the effect. The cause is that where you have, like you said, there's no culture, right? But people are not paying attention to what really matters the most because it's not a social value. Where you see public education, it's not about children, it's about profit. It's not about health, it's about profit. It's not about true beauty insight, it's about profit. Right? Profit. I'm not saying that, and I'm just so that way we get clear. I'm not saying that that capitalism is wrong. It's because Native people, since the Ice Age, they've been trading with everyone. So we know that there's definitely no problem with doing commercialization as like trade because it's based on a need, right? But when you talk about commercialism, right, we have to strip away, and this is a pain. It's just very tough for a lot of people to do, both men and women, to be able to peel the onion skin so raw to the point where you're just at the nub, right? You are so raw and so fragile that you have a chance of teeter-tottering and going nihilistic and ending your life, and then deciding to know that you can choose to do that, or knowing full well that even though it doesn't matter, you choose to do the latter, which is love and give, regardless if it doesn't mean anything. You choose to do it anyway. That's something that, as a spiritual awakening that I went through, I choose to love. I choose to give. I choose to sacrifice, and I choose to suffer. And I accept it.
And everybody has their level of how they deal with everything. So we're all work in progress.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter how you spin it, no matter how you slice the pie, whatever, we're all work in progress. So we're never gonna nobody way is the right way or whatever the case is. You just got to connect with the people that agree with the way that you do it. And I think that's the big thing. Because you can go on and on and on about your way, but if they don't agree with it, shit, it's just that. You're just talking. So you have to find the folks that agree, y'all buy in, and y'all build a system and a program and work together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the bottom line. That's it. If it don't fit, then I quit. And that's a whole different thing, but that's just it in a nutshell. If it don't fit, then I quit
good one.
because
Good one.
it's just not gonna work. And that's the bottom line. So people have to understand that. Because me, I'm not gonna keep talking somebody to death about what I believe in, and it's totally different from what they believe in. That's just a waste of time. I could be doing something elsewhere. I can show and prove that what I've done, it worked. And if you can't buy into it, eventually you have to make moves.
Yeah.
So that's where it's at. I don't like it's so much there's so many other things, and I know, like, for me, like, it needs to be a part two of this of this whole thing, but I'm not gonna just keep throwing stuff out there at what time is it? 11:21. We gonna get ready to have some final conclusions or comments, and then we'll come back and see what's next. What's what for next week? Anybody want to touch on anything that we covered so far? Jackie, calling you up.
Yes. So I just believe that right now a lot of healing needs to be done, and a lot of kings out there needs to be healed and treated properly. I just believe that standards. Sir, could you please mute for me, please?
Sorry, I apologize.
Um, I just feel like a lot of people need some kind of foundation, spiritual, morals, just they need some kind of foundation, because without that, people go awry and do whatever they think is right. And you guys know I'm more biblically based, and so I just feel like if you have God in your life, He is going to be your GPS for you to do the right things. And so um, I feel bad for the young man that's on here that went through what he went. I feel bad for all men that have been good men and have been treated this way. But I think that prayer changes things, and we should just make sure we have that 100 questions and let God guide us, because the Holy Spirit will guide us into all truth, and we will see, what we got in front of us before we take that leap. So I pray for healing for all of us that has been hurt, because I've been also, but God has brought me through it. So, and I've learned a lot, but it still doesn't change the loving person that I am. It doesn't change who I am. I just direct it in the right direction and not just give it away to the hogs. I'm not throwing my pearls away to swines. Okay. So, anywho, with that being said, God bless everyone that's been on, and all everyone that's been on the panel. God bless each and every one of you, and everyone listening. God bless each and every one of you.
Thank you, thank you. Appreciate it. Gavin.
Yes, I'm here. Thanks again. This is something. Um, uh, thanks a lot for the opportunity to chime in, and also bond even further with my brother, Red Cloud. This is something I didn't know, and you and I, we've talked a lot on a lot of stuff. When we first met over about 20 years ago, no, about 15 years ago, but it's always been a blessing, you know, to know you and grow from you. Thanks. And from you, Herb, as well. Thank you.
You too, Gavin.
All right.
I always
Good night.
consider you my brother. Always.
Thank likewise. Same here.
Aohi Shikasen. You're my brother.
All right. Red Cloud. Quickly, a quick synopsis of trying to tie everything in together. What's your take on this? Thomas.
Sorry. Um, Okay, so I didn't hear that last part.
No, I said, what's your take on this? Trying to tie everything together as we close it out. What's your overall take on this whole conversation? A quick, brief statement.
Well, society is sick, and people are unaware or uneducated, and it's deliberate. As the sooner that we start getting it out there, I think this sooner that, because I do chime in what Jack said about there's a lot of um, kings out there. In my viewpoint, there's also a lot of women that are broken. I mean, case in point, my society, they don't have a women's lodge. They only have it for men. And it's supposed to be a society based on the mother. I think we need to take a look at that and not ignore it.
All right. I appreciate that. And, we're going to keep having these further discussions and try to tie them all in together. Big Bad Wolf.
Big Bad Wolf, is really good to meet you, man. I wanted to tell you that, and her too. I'm happy to just talk to you guys. This has been great.
Thank you. Herb, closing comment. What's going on? This dude can't hear me.
Herb, we can't hear you.
Right, he's muted.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Once bitten, twice shy. Sorry about that. Resiliency is in short supply. And what I mean by that is this. We have a lot of people who are decent people, but they suffer something at the hands of someone who means them harm. And as opposed to addressing that individual in the transgression, they feel the only solace they have is to descend into that chaos as opposed to rise above it. And I, working with the public and seeing some things that I have, people often ask me, they say, why didn't you do this or why didn't you do that? Because it doesn't help me. It doesn't help me become a better person. All it does is exact the matter of physical pain. And physical pain is not the way to address anything. So I always choose the path of going one above unless you touch on one of my 5 major things. And then at that point, all bets is off. I won't disclose those things because I don't want nobody taking shots at me. But rest assured, I put my hand in the mud just like anybody else. I just opt not to. And
I'll take the bullet for you.
And as always, growth and understanding occurs in a gray area. Godspeed. See you next time.
All right. For me, a lot has been covered. A lot has been said. A lot of stuff has a lot of historical perspectives, cultural perspectives. But at the end, I'm always going to go by what my grandmother always said. Do right by people. Got to do right by people. And for that matter, as being an educator, I understand that children, they're raw. So we have to cultivate them to grow. So they don't understand a lot of things. So we have to be in positions to school them. But when I think about stuff that Thomas said earlier about teaching and molding, like a lot of people, we don't talk about, like different cultures, we don't talk about certain things. We don't have these conversations. And I think that's where failure has arisen because as a counselor, when I talk to parents, they expect everything to happen from the schools.
Mhm.
But wise parents know, like, oh, I have to fill in the blanks. So when we talk about, and I'm running a bunch of thoughts together. When you talk about needs and all that stuff, we need each other. We all need each other. So we need
Yes, we
people to
do.
fill in the blanks, and you have to be wise to say, this is what I need. I can't. Nobody can do this alone, because I see people post stuff on a regular basis. I don't need nobody. You're just an idiot if you think that. We need each other. You have to be able to fill in the blanks, because other than that, you're gonna have an incomplete puzzle. So understand that, respect that. That just because, again, and I'm jumping all over the place. Just because you grew up with somebody and you've been cool with them for 30, 40 years, they might not complete your puzzle. It may be time to let them go. Same thing in a relationship. Find people that find the missing pieces that fit your puzzle to make you complete. Because other than that, you're gonna be searching around looking for that missing piece, looking under the bed, looking under the couch, looking everywhere. Like, where's this missing piece at? Got to find them people that make it complete for you. With that said, we out. I appreciate everybody in the panel. I appreciate Thomas joining us, Gavin, and all that stuff. Got to find our missing pieces. We got to roll with it. Because other
I
than
send a
that,
prayer. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
so other than that, we'll always feel incomplete with certain things. Now go ahead. You had something to say?
I was just gonna say, it's genuinely I feel this way. I send my love to everyone, and you're not alone. And I pray that we all together we come together as a human family, and hold each other by the hand, because at the end of the day, that's the only way we're going to survive. So I pray for that day where we have real unity, where we see ourselves not, as Black or Native American, right? Or whatever it is, because at the end of the day, we're a human tribe. We're one huge family. And I send my love out.
And I always say it. I'm gonna counter with that, whatever, because that's a beautiful thing. But we have to do that in our households before all that happens. And that's the bigger issue. A lot of times we don't have that we don't have peace in our households. So we have to learn to have peace between couples with children. Sometimes you have blended families and things like that. We got to have peace. We got to walk out that doorstep with a smile on our face. Because all too often we walk out there in the morning walking out mad as hell, going to work mad, going to school mad, angry. Excuse my language. What the fuck that's going to do for you for your work day for 8 hours? Then once you leave work, you're mad because you're pissed off about coworkers and all that stuff. We got to find a way. We got to find peace and resolution in our hearts. When you find that, when you walk into work, I can't wait till the day I walk into work, be like, do, good morning, everyone. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but I love for that to happen. Then I know, like, life is good. Remember that thing when you hear that, do, that means it's peace and love. All right, I'm being silly right now, facetious. All right, good people, we out. Whatever. See you next time. Thanks for everybody joining, and everybody have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
All right, people, y'all take care.
God bless. And also, Mr. Cloud, you can call me Jackie.
All right.
That's how to pronounce my name, Jackie.
Jackie,
Yes.
fantastic. Jackie, it's a pleasure to meet you. It really
It's a
is.
blessing meeting you. It's a blessing meeting you. God bless everyone tonight.
All right. Y'all be safe, be good, be well. See you next time.
Take care, guys.
All right.